Welcome to the InGeneral podcast, episode 99. That is crazy. As always, I am joined with Chris and Assis. What's up, guys?
I'm wearing a coat. I'm cold.
He's a cold boy.
He is wearing a coat. He's indoors. He looks like he's out in the Arctic tundra. And
Yeah.
Might as well be. Edmonton, Alberta. Look it up. It's cold.
Yeah.
wearing a coat.
Me and Chris are not wearing coats for those who like to see visually.
I am wearing a beanie and a
We're all
hoodie.
wearing hats.
You're wearing a hoodie.
I'm wearing
We're
a
all
hoodie.
wearing hats. We're all wearing
hats,
glasses.
We're wearing hoodies. Yeah. We're wearing glasses as well. Yeah.
There's a
Wow,
theme
look at
here.
this.
All wearing headphones. Sort of.
These are non-prescription glasses, and
Yeah, you
Oh, I
got
hate that.
Pittsburgh,
I don't like
Pittsburgh
that.
Pirates there.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Represent.
Okay, I have a bone to pick with you, Jack.
Hit me.
You live in Canada, Vancouver, right? Vancouver, Canada, right?
Yes.
Canada,
What are you
Vancouver.
wearing on your head? You're not in Pittsburgh, my friend. Put on a Vancouver Canucks
Spirit
hat
spiritually
already.
with
Let me buy you one.
It's with me in heart and spirit.
I put it on every morning because I think of Chris every morning. I wake up
Don't
to
you know
the
what?
thought of
Don't
Chris.
wear a
So move
Pittsburgh
to Pittsburgh.
Penguins hat in Canada though, because I mean, at least like baseball, you can get away with. But I feel like if you
I'll
start wearing
fight you.
if you start wearing a Pittsburgh hockey team hat in Canada, I feel like that wouldn't go over as well.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that. I'll wear a Canucks hat. Yeah, I'll do it.
Hell
Do it.
yeah.
Well,
You
pay
love
for
it.
it.
I'll buy you it.
Hit me up, man. I don't see anything on your hat.
I have
Yeah.
my. Well, actually, yes, there is something on my hat. It's the logo for the PPCLI.
you
Look it
should
up.
you should get the Jurassic Outpost hat. We now sell Jurassic Outpost hats in the Jurassic Outpost store.
You know, I have
Uh,
another bone to pick with you, Jack. You get
hit me
all the
up.
cool Jurassic Outpost stuff away to everyone else, but I get nothing. Where's my
Have
hat?
we ever-
Where's my
Have
shirt?
we ever given anything away?
I
think
don't
people just
believe
buy
anybody
know.
has a hat.
Anybody that's
shirt.
like has Jurassic Outpost merch, I think they just bought it. I think
I
all I got was a mug.
Alex got the T-shirt. Alex got the T-shirt. Chris got the mug. The one we brought to Philly. Was it
There's
Philly
a
or
bunch
was
of
it
pens
LA?
in circulation somewhere.
There's pens in circulation. There's
Oh my God,
Outpost pens.
Dude, I have pens in my truck. It made it all the way to
Pens for
the west.
days.
I
Fuck
got
yeah.
pens for days.
Actually, yeah, I have an Outpost pen in my car. Yeah.
Everyone needs one.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's what we do. You can't buy Outpost pens, but you can get them exclusively from Corey. So if you do want,
great.
for anybody listening out there, if you want an Outpost pen, get in touch with Corey. He'll
They
hook
might
you
still
up.
be around.
There's hundreds.
They are
They're
black
everywhere.
pens,
They're,
by the way. Black
There
pens.
were a lot.
they're across
of
North
pens.
America. That's spread into Canada. I've left some somewhere. I've left them at different places. You know.
There are some Jurassic
Drop 'em off at
Outpost dog
hotels.
tags
Yeah.
in circulation somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I lost mine at the airport. Someone has that in Philadelphia. Enjoy those.
Dave
Hey.
Dave Philly's got
Hey,
it.
Philly.
Dave, Philly, weed. Guys, just before we jump into the news, because there are a few things to talk about, if you check out that whole fan site, that Jurassic Park fan site, JurassicOutpost.com, you'll find information on a giveaway. We're giving away, with a partnership with Toy Monster, we're giving away 250, I believe it's 250
250 slime eggs.
slime eggs. So get
Which
ready
we
to get
unboxed in the
Nickelodeon
last
slime.
episode.
They are
Complete
the
audio
captives,
unboxing.
Captives Clash Edition slime eggs. It's the new edition. We got 250 to give away. Just give away. No
Just give away.
context, No questions.
They're very
asked.
cool,
Just-
by the way. You want these.
These are not the mega eggs. The mega eggs are like those big bundle collector sets. These
Mhm.
are just the slime egg with one little Captives dino in them.
Just
But
a little
again,
one.
it's free.
Free
It's a
Great
giveaway.
quality.
It's
Great
an egg
giveaway.
and it's free.
We've got I think maybe 40 mega eggs left that we can sell
Something
through.
like that. Yes.
Wow.
There are also we were selling 250
And we're-
mega eggs. And
And I guess
see you
what's
guys are
worth
buying them.
noting
Nice to see.
is they were when they came to the States, they were seized by customs, and they just cleared customs. They have now just arrived in my house, and I will begin processing and shipping them to the people who bought them next week. I just
Yes.
wanted to
Nice.
put
it's
it out there.
it's funny. I received I think it was a Snapchat from Chris, surrounded by eggs, giant boxes of eggs, big
It's
pyramid,
there's literally a pyramid of boxes in my
like
house.
250 mega eggs inside Chris's house. The
Just
free giveaway eggs will not be coming.
They
from
will not be mega.
Pittsburgh.
They will not be coming from me either.
No, they will be
Captives
coming
is handling
from.
it.
Yes, they will be coming from Cretaceous. But check that out,
Captives are
and
handling it.
the giveaway is on the site too. Check that out, and yeah, very exciting times. But egg, what more can you say about that?
They're great. Listen to our audio unboxing.
So,
Our first ever.
so
You know that wait. You know that shot in Alien when they first land on the planet and they find the crashed alien, the derelict ship.
Oh, of course.
And they're going through it with the flashlight, and there's all those eggs down there on the ground with the fog.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have the perfect opportunity to recreate that. Like, with all
It'd be a missed opportunity.
eggs.
You know what? Universal, never talk to him if he doesn't do it again.
It would be a shame if I don't if I just
have
don't.
to.
I have to open up all these boxes and just set up the eggs in perfect succession, get a bunch of fog, and take a picture. At this point, it's worth all the work. I mean, I would need like a warehouse to do it in, but I got to rent that warehouse, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
We'll start a Patreon for it, or a fundraiser, or whatever it's called. A GoFundMe.
Yes, fund me to not ship your eggs, just to take a picture with them.
Just to pump some smoke into the room.
Yeah,
Smoke damaged eggs.
But yeah, we will be shipping those out soon. Anyway, sorry, I just my mind.
Yeah,
we're tangenting today. I love it.
Just don't do it again. Okay, so we're moving on. Let's talk. Let's talk Camp Cretaceous. The season 4 trailer has dropped, and it is dividing people. Ooh, we love a divide in the Jurassic fandom, don't we? We love a good divide.
We're used to it at this point.
Yeah, no,
it's not a real fandom unless there's divide.
Of course,
unless there's division, but what about multiplication? So the trailer is here, and yeah, I think that it's more divisive than I think a lot of us expected it to be. I'm actually the general gist of, I would say, like a good 60%, 70% of people are like, I'm not so sure about this. To be honest with you, I share the concerns, but I'm remaining cautiously optimistic that they will pull it off.
So hit me up with the answer to this question, Chris. Are we going back to Isla Sorna?
No, we are not going back to Isla Sorna.
You guys are so certain on that.
Is going on?
What
the fuck?
Kramer has confirmed that we are not going back to Isla Sorna. It's an all-new island. It's an all-new island. Not one of the 5 deaths. Not one of the 5 deaths. Not Isla Nublar. Not Isla Sorna.
It's
not mainland. It is an all-new island that happens to be very close to Isla Nublar, between Isla Nublar and Costa Rica.
They're just building islands now and making them up.
And it's got dinosaurs. It's got robots. It's got crazy dogs, crazy robo-dogs. It's not InGen. It's not Biosyn. It's just
it's brand new.
I guess it's Manticore. It's expecting you to accept a lot of things, but again, I want to say I'm still cautiously optimistic they can pull it off.
I trust them. They haven't done bad yet.
The Robo-Dog,
was bad.
It was fine.
The animation of the Robo-Dogs is a bit far from what we've seen in the trailer. But if they only do things that are like a slightly more advanced Boston Dynamics like Robot can do, then I can buy it. And I can say, hey, the animation and design's a slight embellishment of the animated format. But when you take in consideration what they're doing isn't that wild or out there, I can totally take it. So you can almost imagine, like, if it appeared in a movie, it might be a little bit more stripped back, a little bit more Boston Dynamics. So yeah, I think that the design's a little too fluid, a little too animalistic, and same with like the animation. But I can accept that as long as what it's doing isn't out of the realm of reasonability, of grounded.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, okay, so let's talk about the Spinosaurus is back, and I believe it was. I was listening to our video that we put together. We were saying it was Scott Creamer that was talking, but was it Zach Stentz that actually was interviewed by EW, or was it Scott?
No, it was Scott. It was Scott.
Zach, okay, so we did get that right.
Yeah, no.
Zach
got Sorna wrong. We got the names right.
Zach had a little meltdown on Twitter, but we won't talk about that.
It was strange.
Okay, so Spinosaurus
uncharacteristic of him.
Spinosaurus is back, and it's sort of confirmed kind of that it is the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. So that is one kind of doesn't work with what's happened in Evolution 2. However, very exciting.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
So spoilers for Evolution 2. Because for
spoilers.
The Jurassic Park 3 level is like 20 minutes long for one thing.
Yes,
it's absurdly short. And we can talk more about Evolution 2 in a second.
But we will.
Evolution 2 says that the Spinosaurus died in like 2001, killed by a pack of raptors while Mizrani and Wu were there on the island, like getting things for Jurassic World. So assume that is. I don't know why they said that. It's just a really weird embellishment to create for the game.
Well, it's not. It's a part of like that leaked or the one of the proposed endings to JP3, wasn't it? When the Spinosaur gets killed by the
everyone
raptors.
says that, but I've never seen. Is there anything of that ending?
When I asked
JP3
Shelley,
said that.
I asked Shelley that question.
Oh yeah.
When I interviewed him, and he couldn't recall immediately, but then I think later it came up in the call again or something, and he was like, "You know what? I do. That does ring a bell." He wasn't sure if it was in a script or whether it was a piece of concept art or something, but we got to remember it's 20 years ago. This film, 21 years ago, that they were actually working on it.
It's not in the ultimate JP visual history. It's
no.
It's not in any of the scripts that we have. I've never seen a piece of artwork for that, so I'm just so curious of where that idea came from. I think that there is a version of the one script that we have where the Spinosaur walks underneath them when they're in the trees when the raptors are surrounding them, and I think that maybe that took a life of its own and became rumored that, because also at the end of the movie, the raptors and pteranodons were going to fight. And also, the military was going to fight the pteranodons. The thing is like, I cannot source where the hell that came from. Anyhow,
well, it would make sense though, right? The big bad Spino, the big bad dinosaur in that movie getting attacked by the raptors at the end, it kind of like aligns with the first movie. It makes
like
sense.
Poetry. It rhymes.
But we don't know. But anyway, so Spinosaurus is back, and by all accounts, it is the JP3 Spinosaurus. However, it's been taken off of its lovely home of Isla Sorna, Site B.
It's in a desert now. What the hell?
And it's
in a desert.
It's
an
on
artificial
a brand new island,
sure.
which
You know what I mean.
out of the blue, a nice convenient island, which was actually located on the other side of Isla Nublar.
It's the other side of Nublar, yeah.
It's in the other direction from Isla Nublar, and the kids end up on it. Oh, there's an island, look! And yeah, so...
is it more creative to have like a new island, or is it just better to go to one of the existing islands?
Yes,
well, here's the thing: if you're going to a new island with the dinosaurs from the old island, I don't really understand.
Yeah, it's another island.
It's
another island.
It's just an island. It's just an island. And so here's the thing that I'm having trouble buying is the premise.
Silly.
The premise of this trailer is that we're to believe that there was another island next to Isla Nublar that was in saleable.
Not Sanctuary this time.
Next to the 5 other islands that were already
there. Next to the 5 other islands that are already there.
and Costa Rica.
That nobody has known about. And it's got dinosaurs on it, and nobody knows about it. And it's got technology on it that nobody has ever heard of or seen of in this world. We've never seen it reflected in the films that chronologically take place before Camp Cretaceous, including Jurassic World. We've never seen it in the films that take place after Camp Cretaceous, years after Fallen Kingdom. It's got this wild-ass technology. It exists right next to Jurassic World, and literally the world never knew about it. Because the world thinks the only dinosaurs are on Isla Nublar by InGen.
It's called good storytelling, Chris, okay? It's called good storytelling.
That is where I can't... This is such a commercially flown and visited area because Jurassic World was an open park, not this tiny little private game preserve that was, like, hidden.
Yeah.
You expect me to buy that the world doesn't know that this exists here? That's the thing that I cannot... If the campers like got kidnapped and got taken halfway across the world, totally fine. But from what we can see in the trailer, and the trailer might be faking us out, but from what we can see in the trailer, the Mosasaur screws with them. They end up washing ashore to a new island.
And we must remember the Mosasaur has only just left Nublar. Season 3.
That actually makes sense. It would still be around the oceanic waters.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's right there. Like, so they're not that far when they get attacked from the island.
It should just be Sorna, man.
It should be Sorna. Damn. I mean, maybe the season will do a better job of justifying why it's a new island, and maybe it will do a better job of explaining where it came from. That's something that I'm definitely apprehensive about. It's taking a leap of logic there, and I think it would have been a lot easier to say, hey, remember that island that had dinosaurs on it that everyone thought was abandoned? Well, it turns out somebody else has taken over that island. They're, for whatever reason, everyone thought it was abandoned, but stuff's happening there. I think it'd be a lot easier to accept that something that people knew existed, but more was happening on it than what they thought was happening. I think that's a lot easier to understand than saying, oh, hey, there just happens to be another island, and for some reason they built stuff on this island, but then they're taking stuff from the other island over there and bringing it to this island, even though they could build it on that island over there. And also, nobody knew about this island. We've never seen it on the map. We've never heard about it, and the world somehow doesn't know about it. It's expecting you.
It reminds me of Skull Island, dude.
It's so convoluted. it's so
maybe it's the Lost
needlessly-
Island. Maybe it's like within a secret. It's within a biome itself that's like invisible and you can't see it.
But I'm more optimistic about it than most people because I don't know. Maybe it's explained. And again, a lot of people are turned off by the
very
robots,
optimistic.
and I'm definitely.
I trust them.
Yeah, I want to trust them. My worry is this. My worry is they had a plan that was maybe a little bit more grounded, maybe a little bit more tied to things, and then things changed, and within the changes, things got wacky.
Perhaps.
Because we know that originally Manticore was supposed to be Biosyn. They've said as much, and they're then told sort of towards the last minute that they can't use Biosyn. So my worry is maybe this was a season where we would have found out like what's going on with Biosyn and Dominion, and then eventually they're like, oh, you can't use Biosyn for one reason or another. Maybe the backstory is no longer aligned with what we're going to be shown in the new movie. But my worry is then they just had to invent something that like is never going to be reflected in the films and just kind of doesn't feel like it's connected, and you really have to kind of shut off your disbelief to accept all of these circumstances. These very wild circumstances are happening. You both have to shut off your disbelief for why are they happening, and also how have they never really come into play elsewhere. We'll see, but season 3 was really good.
And grounded more.
Grounded.
I mean, if you look at like season 1 felt quite grounded and it did a good job of establishing itself. Season 2, in my opinion, was poor, very exaggerated. And I think Chris's theory of like maybe it was all in Kenji's head, like it was his retelling of what happened. I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Very exaggerated story. Season 3 brought it right back. I think it's my favorite season. Very grounded.
Yeah,
it did things for the lore of Jurassic, and it entertained those ideas, and it also just pushed us forward a little bit in the linking with Wu and things like that. It makes sense. While also being its own story, the Scorpius Rex, it expands the lore of Jurassic World without ruining things, without taking you to new lengths of like, well, how did this? Camp Cretaceous is the perfect place to visit the kind of origins of hybrids. That makes sense because, why not? But yeah, by all accounts, season 4 is going to be another season 2. I mean, it could be really, really good, and they could the writing may just, dominate. But I just worry because.
There's a lot happening in that trailer. There's a lot happening.
Zach's argument for not going to Sorna would be like, why should we retread and go back over old things when we can create new stories and new lore? And all my thoughts is that it's been 20 fucking years since we've seen Isla Sorna. I think it might be time for us to see or figure out what's going on with that island. And just again, as Chris was saying, if you are looking for an island to have secret things going on and dinosaur stuff going on, wouldn't it make sense to use one of the 4 islands that have not been visited in any media for Jurassic?
Especially in 2016.
If you're spying on Nublar.
This isn't chronologically set. This isn't... it in the world, it is not set far away from Nublar. Chronologically, it's set right after the events of Jurassic World, well before Fallen Kingdom. If this was set like after Dominion and it could have been any part of the world, then yeah, I agree with him. Don't retread back to Sorna. Go somewhere else. Tell a new story. I totally get that. But the thing is you have to consider where this is taking place geographically and where it's taking place in the timeline. That's why people are like, how the hell isn't this new? Like, how is inventing an all new island more creatively?
Yeah, exactly right.
How is that more creatively
creative.
Original? Creative. Allow myself to introduce myself. How is it more creatively original than just actually working with what is established within the lore and then logically expanding from there?
Be creative in a new sense using old.
Yeah,
old
start with your foundation stone, and then build out from it in a logical way, rather than just sort of like ignoring a foundation point that actually has a sense of grounding and building it out and expanding it. It just
Sorna would allow them to go back over Jurassic lore, and there's been 20 years since we've seen the island, so anything could have happened to it, and that's their story to tell.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't seen it in so long that literally whatever this... I'm assuming Manticore, but it'd be really funny if it's not Manticore and it's just someone else entirely. It's like...
It's the Grendel Corporation.
Yeah, right?
It's Ben. He's like, I'm here to spy.
But we haven't seen this island in so long that literally that would be a great way to explain away where Sorna's been. It's like, yeah, well, it got, reclaimed by the Costa Rican government and this year, and then eventually somebody else acquired it off of them. Maybe they're freelancing, a company's freelancing to like maintain and run the island, something along those lines. And then you could go there and find out like, oh, they've got these crazy biomes. They're doing who the hell knows what there, everything like that. Like they were like, brought in to like keep the island, the public from like the dinosaurs from escaping, the public from visiting. And then meanwhile, they're like back channeling all their crazy own stuff there that like nobody knew about. These campers sort of stumble upon. And you could say, well, wouldn't then the world know by 2018? Well, yeah, but then shouldn't the world know by 2018 that this other island, this other company was breeding dinosaurs? Like this already, the idea of the campers find out, unless the campers just don't survive or they don't get off the island until after the events.
They kill them all?
Yeah, or they don't get off the island after before the events of Fallen Kingdom. It's tough to buy.
Yeah,
it's tough to buy that the world didn't know that there were other companies making dinosaurs and other companies screwing. It's again the fact that we've already said this. Fallen Kingdom doesn't make sense for the way that it treats the world. When you consider what we've seen in the films, Fallen Kingdom doesn't make sense.
I don't want to talk about that movie.
Yeah, I don't
Jurassic
want to
Park 3.
Jurassic Park
3 established. Jurassic Park 3 established tourists literally take tours of Isla Sorna. So you believe me that genetic companies were going there and taking DNA and technology. So whatever, we've been through this 1,000 times.
No, it's silly. It's silly, but
it just doesn't make sense. My issue is the entire premise of Camp Cretaceous season 3 sounds very contrived. It does not sound canonically logical.
You mean season
4? Season 4 does not sound canonical, but they could still stick the landing. My hope
they could dominate. The thing is, they've proved themselves. It's a good show. It does do good things for the franchise. So I'm all faith. I can't wait to watch it. But it just on paper, no. And Zach Stent's tweets, it makes me think that he's worried about the reaction and he's worried about how it's going to be, rather than him just trying to protect his work. And just instantly, as soon as the trailer drops, he comes out defending it. I'm like, he hasn't done
really
that before.
Defensive about the Sorna thing, but I feel like most people, including myself, their main concerns weren't like, oh, I'm so sad it's not going to be on Isla Sorna.
No,
their main concerns were like, these robots and these biodomes look kind of out there, kind of generic sci-fi, and kind of very disconnected from the films in terms of the technology that we're seeing here. And then people are also saying, why are we going to a new island right next to Nublar when Sorna exists? Like that's sort of like people wanted to go to Sorna. People want to go to Sorna for the history of Jurassic Park, but also, again, like we said, there's just like a logical line. Like you're looking like a new island. It's like, but why?
Sorna has a story. It's got things on it already that are dinosaur related, and Masrani's probably been there. Like, it just has a lot that makes sense. And like we said, 20 years.
It's got a Jurassic Park T-Rex on it. We've seen the Jurassic Park T-Rex.
The freaking Spinosaurus. That's the weird thing, is that they pulled out
they went to
Sorna from Sorna and put them on this new island. Why?
It might as well just be Sorna.
The color shifted Jurassic World raptors. It's got biomes that look like Sorna.
Very creative, guys. Let's take Sorna on a new island, different name, but still Sorna.
Yeah,
that's very creative. 10 out of 10, guys.
I mean, again, maybe they might. Like
the premise.
Hey, man, I don't know. I'm having fun with this.
The premise sounds like they wanted to say they did something new, but like didn't really do anything new. So they
just did something a bit more convoluted than they needed to. It just did not need to be a new island. But whatever, man. It might work. Well, and it's in terms of like the futuristic stuff and the new technology. Look, I think Camp Cretaceous Camp Cretaceous could pull it off, but also it's the kind of it has a right to explore those kind of things, even if it's not what I want from the franchise or what maybe is the most logical. It can explore those. That's fine, and if it does it right, then it does it right and it works. But yeah, as you said, the dogs look a bit like really at this point.
The thing is we've been told the show is canon. We've been told it's canon. We've told that they've wanted to stay true to Jurassic Park. They want to stay true to Jurassic World. And listen, if Jurassic World Dominion comes out swinging and we see this technology in Dominion, then you know what? I will eat my words and I'll say, hey, this technology fits within the world. But if we don't see this technology in Jurassic World Dominion, then what the hell is this show doing? And why was it allowed to do that? Because it just is so illogical. But
yeah. Well, season 4 might be the season where Colin comes out saying it's not It's not canon
Well,
anymore.
the thing is, Colin has said that his favorite episodes are in season 4. So like, and like he said, like even like when we get into season 4, people will see that people really understand that it's canon and really understand that it's building to Dominion. And then I'm like, okay, but the interviews with Scott are saying it's not BIOS and it's not Engine, so I'm already confused.
It might be a misdirect at this point. I'm kind of leaning that way, man.
Just with the little things that we know about Dominion, and quite frankly, we don't know a lot. So again, maybe what we're seeing in this trailer, like maybe this is a taste of what we're getting from Jurassic World Dominion. Like maybe there's going to be robo-dogs. Maybe there's going to be technical biodomes. I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe.
We have made assumptions about Dominion having biomes because of all the different locations we are visiting. We've definitely talked about that before. And I think there is definitely scope for that. But I don't know. So basically, in Camp Cretaceous, what we're seeing is that they go to an island and there's biomes on it. There's a desert and there's a snowy location, right? And probably other locations too.
It just sounds like they just wanted a story that hits the same textures of Jurassic World Dominion. Like, oh, Jurassic World Dominion has deserts. Okay, let's create deserts, but it's in a biome. Oh, and it's got Arctic, so let's have an Arctic here, but in a biome. Oh, it's got like redwood type of forest, so let's create it, but in a biome. It just seems like they're trying. Oh, it's got a new company, so let's create our own new company. It's got new animals, so let's create our own new animals. Like it just seems like
one of the arguments. Well, one of their arguments was that they want to do something new and not retread on old things. But all they've done is stayed in the same location, just made a new island, and it's a jungle island that sits near the other island. So that doesn't really do anything else. What they should have done.
The trailer might be a misdirect.
Those kids up, yeah, it could be. Pick those kids up, taken them to the Atacama Desert of Chile, and done something there. If maybe that's where Manticore's lair is, and they were working with InGen, and
very off
the
public eye,
isolated in a desert, but they are in reach,
which is like an endless ocean.
Exactly, but they are like, oh, okay, we're actually on the mainland. We're just isolated in a very, very far out location, but it takes it well away from the islands, well away from them. And that, in a way, I feel like
somewhere new and somewhere that the territory is not so mapped out, so it's a little easier to go like, "Wow, we had no idea about this, but it makes sense because we just don't know what's happening in this part of the world." This area around Isla Nublar is it's really, and I really hope the trailer's a misdirect because it's really messing with my ability to buy it logically. It's asking a lot.
Breaking his brain, folks.
It's asking a lot of us, and it's asking a lot of us to accept that technology, considering we just don't see it in the films. Like we've seen it's the world that they're living in is this normal world. If they could create these crazy advanced biodomes and have these crazy advanced robotics, why have we not seen them in the world?
Do you know what I mean? Like Godzilla vs. Kong, man.
I know it seems very Godzilla vs. Kong, Apex. I'm not a fan. It's very, from what I've seen, what they're doing, I'm remaining optimistic that they'll pull it off, but I do share the concern that it does just seem very generic sci-fi. And it seems very 90s, mid 2000s cartoon of a franchise where they just go batshit insane and really don't have to adhere to any rules. That's
Dino
sort of
Riders or something,
Like it's just, I don't know. We'll see.
I do worry about it, but it's
but
funny.
I'm also very excited. I'm very excited to see it. I'm remaining optimistic they're going to pull it off, but there is a part of me that's worried. And the more that I've read people's worries, the more that voice in the back of my head has kind of been like, yeah, no, I'm worried about that as well. I'm just like hopeful that it isn't the case because trailers can be very misleading. I don't want to judge it until we see it because we just don't know the context.
You'll see it soon enough, my friend.
By all accounts, Colin loves creating islands. I mean, if you think about the Sanctuary Island, that in Fallen Kingdom, that kind of came out of nowhere. We have
Colin loves creating islands that should be Sorna.
Yeah, they should be Sorna, yeah. Okay, so let's shut the hell up about that. Just stop, okay? Just stop. Stop being mean. Zach's
enough is enough, okay?
I hope he has more tweet threads. I hope he does a big tweet thread about Sorna.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about, and I'm very excited to go look for this after this chat.
All right, let's talk about Evolution 2. So I finally, I don't know if you saw this, there was issues preloading the game onto the PlayStation 4, so I really did not get a chance to play the game until last night. I had a little bit of a play on that game.
What did you think of it?
Okay, so graphically, it is a lot nicer. It does look like Evolution 1, but it does seem more refined. Graphics are nice. The menu, all the AI and everything is really nice. I like it. I played a little bit of the first level, the Arizona campaign level, and man, the frame rate drops are crazy, and the
Yes.
glitching is kind of crazy at this point, and I wasn't even really doing anything. So it's confusing, but it seems like a fun game. Although, I mean, I've obviously read Chris's review. I've read many other reviews. I've listened to people's info and I've read tweets. It seems very short, very not, I don't want to say half-assed, but it just seems like the wrong kind of direction.
It seems patched together, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit patched together. Like, obviously, it was delayed for Dominion, and then they had to delay. But based on the fact that it takes about 2 hours to complete the campaign, I'm just confused as to why they released this game as it is. I feel like they should have begged Universal for a delay in order to fully finish this game, or even delay it until Dominion comes out. Like, what's the harm? Everybody still played Evolution 1.
Yeah, I don't understand why this game released when it did, as it did.
Especially because it's really supposed to tie into Dominion. It's all stuff that we've not seen yet. It's post Fallen Kingdom.
Like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's canon, but it's definitely dabbling.
Way it's canon. There's no way.
But, well, I mean, we've seen enough from Jurassic World Dominion to know this is touching on very similar notes. We've seen the DFW from the Jurassic World Dominion IMAX preview. That helicopter that's chasing the T-Rex.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that.
See, it has the DFW logo on it.
I've never even seen it.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of elements that we've seen in Jurassic World Evolution 2 that, like, yes, absolutely, it's tying into what Dominion is doing.
Yeah, loosely, but not like loosely. It's not tied in.
Exactly. So I almost feel like they cut the story short, though, because I'm assuming...
Yes, right? It ends in such an abrupt and weird place.
It ends abruptly and literally unceremoniously. It just ends. It just, like, things are happening and it just ends.
They
introduce a character for, like, 2 minutes and then the game's over? I'm like, what? Why?
It's really weird.
Why did it get released?
The audacity of them to charge $60 for this game is blowing my mind. It is.
I paid $90 for this. $90.
I really do want to point something out. A lot when the first trailer dropped, I called it 1.5. It's Evolution 1.5, and from all I can tell, it really does seem to be Evolution 1.5.
It's the first Evolution with the gameplay slightly refined and slightly advanced. So, like, it addresses some of the issues of the gameplay loop that the first Evolution had. So I think that it does do a better job in some regards.
Like what? Give some examples, bro.
I think that the
small thing when you're placing the same item down, like a rock, it will auto.
Oh yes, that's cool.
Give you a different size or rotation. I'm like, okay, cool. That saves so much time. That saves so much time.
Little things like that.
Small things, yeah.
I think that taking the dinosaur comfort and making that their enclosures a little bit more dynamic with what you place there.
I love that. I love that so much.
Making the herbivores feed off of paleo plants and everything like that. I think that's a really, really cool feature. I think it's very logical. It's a very logical feature. Yeah. I like that. I think that the scientist...
Yes, you go first. I have a lot to say about this.
I think that it's both a step forward in some regards and a step backwards in other regards, where I think that it gets a little too cluttered and a little too clogged up for trying to do things. I think it's also a smart way to handle some of that, and I think they applied it to too many features, and it's like, in part, it creates a meta game where you want to pay attention to their stats, and you want to pay attention to their stats and their special abilities.
Yes, I love that.
But the other issue, I definitely like that. The other issue, though, is it clogs up some of the other tasks that you're trying to do. It slows things down. So it's like, in some ways, it gives you more control over things. So it gives you more to pay attention to and more to focus on, which I like. But then it slows things down by tying these scientists to expeditions, to DNA extraction.
I like that,
to research.
Because you gotta like take care of your dinosaurs, your park, and the scientists.
It brings strategy.
Really cool.
It brings strategy into it.
I like that a lot.
I just think that sometimes, especially in like Chaos Theory mode, like the Jurassic World Chaos Theory mode is literally like longer. I mean, it's literally longer than campaign.
Oh my god, it's way longer. I spent like 6 hours on 2 missions.
And honestly, I think Jurassic World Chaos Theory mode is longer than the rest of all the other Chaos Theory modes. It's like longer than campaign and Chaos Theory mode combined, minus like its own self. Like the Jurassic World level is just way too long.
Jurassic World? I haven't gotten there yet. That's after this.
Which one are you on,
Do you
Chaos Theory?
just build? Do you just build
Halfway
Jurassic
through
World?
JP3.
Yeah.
No. Well, no,
in
because
Jurassic World
JP3 is
Chaos.
different.
Oh no, in Jurassic World Chaos Theory, you just build Jurassic World. The difference being is eventually you success. You know, the Indominus doesn't break out. I guess that's the difference. But otherwise, it's like we're gonna build our park. All right, here's the tier. To put it
what's
in
the
perspective,
Chaos Theory mode of Jurassic World? It just the bad stuff doesn't happen. I guess would be the
Well, Jurassic
to
Park
put it in
the same way,
perspective
right?
is my T-Rex died of old age before I hatched my Indominus Rex.
I had the same issue in the Lost World one. My T-Rex and everyone died.
Like, yeah, it's the game doesn't do, because campaign doesn't introduce you to the core mechanics. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like the Jurassic Park mode does a great job of introducing you to the core mechanics. The game doesn't do a great job of explaining how it works to you. So there's a very good chance that in your effort to learn the game's meta and the way that it really works, is you might end up being very frustrated by it, because I know that's what I was finding myself. I wasn't finding myself challenged. I wasn't finding myself challenged. I was finding myself frustrated.
Yes, it was.
There is a very big difference between a challenge and being frustrated.
Yes.
A campaign could have been the great way to slowly introduce you to these concepts and put you in a better position to play the Chaos Theory mode, but it absolutely doesn't do that. And then it just starts. The Jurassic World level is horrible because it's one of those levels where tornadoes will come through.
Did you start with Jurassic World, or did you start at Jurassic Park?
So unfortunately, I played campaign, beat campaign, and then I jumped to JP. So I knew that I knew that they showed Jurassic Park Chaos Theory, and that people had played Lost World Chaos Theory. So I was like, oh, I want to start with something that I'm not familiar with. I wonder what they're doing. I wonder what they're doing with JP3. So I jump into the JP3 mode, and the JP3 Chaos Theory plays like campaign. You don't build a park. You just capture some. You capture some dinosaurs, you throw them in a paddock, and you ship them away. It's literally like campaign. It's not a park builder. Then Jurassic World, you go into it. And then because campaign was so short and the JP3 level was so short, the Jurassic World one, I'm like, oh, it's a park builder. Okay. But the thing is I didn't build my park in a way that
yes, you had to specifically build them in a way.
I didn't build it in the way of being like, I'm going to be required to hit 5 stars with this park and I'm going to be spending hours on it. So I spent 2 hours on this park building it up. And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I'm even halfway through. I've already put so much time into it.
I had the same issue.
And I did not realize the game does not the game should probably tell you start with Jurassic Park and work your way through it, because at least Jurassic Park gives you some introductory. Yep. But even the thing is guest transport is so important for the park, and they don't really teach you how to
I haven't
keep
even
your guests
seen that
happy. Well, it's because Jurassic Park and Lost World don't have monorails.
See, I think the thing that benefited me though is because you started at Jurassic World, which I think is going to be a harder thing to go into. I started with the campaign JP1 Chaos and then Lost World Chaos. By the Lost World Chaos mode, I started figuring out how the game actually functioned, and I had a much better time with it.
Yeah, but the trials and tribulations to get there aren't challenging in
I spent 6 hours on the first Jurassic Park mode. I was like, this is so hard.
Very frustrating. The game does not have a learning curve. It just assumes that you remember how to play the first game, but it's too different
from the first game.
It's
my muscle memory was going off. I'm like, I'm messing everything up. I'm like, it was too much.
And it just doesn't quite explain itself. I think that the games also, I found that the Chaos Theory modes, they last too long, and the missions, they start out with a really strong story-driven introduction. You're like, oh, this is cool. And then eventually it just throws arbitrary tasks at you and asks you to 5-star the park. And you're like, okay.
I kind of like that, though. I don't like sandbox mode. I like this mode.
Well, I like challenge mode. Once you learn how to play the game, I like challenge mode because the tasks are less arbitrary. You go into each environment and there are a few modifiers. It might be like, hey, there's barely any herbivores, so just so you know, you're going to have to jump into carnivores, which is a little bit more challenging to manage, just so you know. Or it might be like, hey, you're going to start with less money, and eventually your goal is to 5-star the park. But it's not going to throw you random tasks where it's like, all right, now breed an Indominus Rex. No, it's up to you to build your park how you want it. So I like it because it's giving you these missions like, hey, choose between 3 missions, build a new thing, increase your guest comfort level or this. But they're these submissions that you can choose then how to enact them. Challenge mode is where the game is at its strongest also, because it has all the gameplay features of digging up dinosaurs, extracting DNA. And
Mr. Diggin', what did you call
and capturing dinosaurs. Challenge. That's the thing. You don't build a park in the campaign. You literally don't build.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's a park building simulator. That's what gets me. But so here's my question for you. They've obviously cut Dominion content, right? When that Dominion content is 100%. Ready to go, do you think it will be Evolution 3? They may as well package it up as a brand new game.
I know what I expect is they're going to charge like $20 for DLC.
Oh my god, they better not. I want to fight.
I will say this. This game is not worth $60 in my opinion, and because most of it is repackaged from the first in new environments. There's a lot of love that went into it. For one thing, the dinosaur animations are incredible, and the dinosaurs look great. The problem is unless you're playing sandbox mode, you don't really have a time to stop and smell the roses, so to speak.
I've not even looked at the dinosaurs.
You can't even look at the dinosaurs because things go crazy. So you can't really appreciate it, but there is a lot of love that went into it. However, campaign's 2 hours long. Chaos Theory mode is like kind of shallow. It's got these beautiful. I'm
having a great time though.
Beautiful intros. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I didn't quite like it. It's got these beautiful intros, but it just kind of quickly becomes boring and frustrating. Challenge mode I've been enjoying, and then sandbox. It's like it's cool because
it's not for me. It's people. I mean, if you like it, like I get it, but it's not for me specifically.
But I want more of a challenge. Like I want. Their sandbox, like I can do whatever I want, and that for me isn't as engaging as being tasked with a level to beat. There's a fine line between the two.
With sandbox though, do you get bigger spaces to build parks in?
So that's the thing is sandbox doesn't even have all of the maps that you play in campaign or Chaos Theory, which is weird. The spaces are decent sized from what I've seen,
because that was my issue.
But they're not like Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. They're not like an island.
That's the thing. I do find it. I know that Operation Genesis, it was like PS2 era, man. So they give you an island, but it's such a small island. But you have a whole island to work with, and it's nice.
Baby island.
Evolution. My main critique of Evolution was you couldn't even zoom out to see the whole island. You were supposed to be on Isla Sorna, Panna. You were supposed to be able to see them, and you couldn't. It was very restricted, and it was way too small playing spaces. And I thought this time they might just, give you so much more space, and they might give you the whole damn island. And maybe you could only build your park in a little bit, but if you're doing a park simulator for Jurassic World, wouldn't it make sense that you also have to operate the docks, the ferry terminals, all the different parts of the island, the restricted zone?
That's too technologically complicated, man. They don't have the budget for that. There's no way.
See, the thing is, it's weird though.
They spent most of their budget on Goldblum.
Did they now? Did they really? I don't think so.
Oh, absolutely. He narrates every mode. He's literally
like 5 seconds of talking. There's nothing.
Yeah, but Goldblum's time is.
He's an expensive guy, and
I guess
he talks through you. He talks to you through like all of Chaos Theory. He talks to you through all of Challenge. He talks to you through all of Sandbox.
Oh, see, I didn't even know he was in Challenge. I thought he was just like a little bit the start of Chaos.
He's like everyone's sort of in Challenge. It's like a hodgepodge of everything. I mean, obviously, like Hammond or Masrani aren't, but like everyone current era are in Challenge.
Masrani's voice is not great in this game.
Yeah, them making him money grubby. I felt like a really bad characterization of Simon Masrani and kind of insulting.
Seemed like
that's kind of absolutely not what Masrani was.
Yeah, I was sort of like, bad form. Anyhow, the
wait. Hold on. They have Masrani in Evolution too.
Yeah, just for one level, the JP3 level.
Okay.
And the Jurassic World level. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, hang on. Okay, so fair. Maybe so. In the Jurassic Park 3 level, it takes place obviously well before Jurassic World.
Yeah,
that's almost fair enough. What if he's a mogul. He had to set up these companies. He probably was money crazy. Probably was, that kind of person. Maybe the dinosaurs softened him. Like maybe after he finally built Jurassic World, got all the success, saw all the happiness and the families. Maybe that softened him. I don't know.
He just seemed like a bad stereotype in the game. Like
generic rich Indian dude. Oh, gross.
It's like it was did not feel like Simon Masrani, who was like this eccentric, charismatic, slightly out of touch dude. Where then Evolution turned him into a stereotype. And I'm like, this seems. I feel a little weird about this, and also just he doesn't sound right. But like the way they wrote,
way off.
Does he sound as good as Owen?
Owen sounds good in this game.
I think
I
Owen
think
sounds
Owen
all right
sounds
in the game.
Owen sounds okay, but it's obviously not Chris Pratt. But I find it funny how it goes from
I don't know, man. It's
this
not bad though. It's not
perfect
bad.
Bryce
Yeah,
Dallas Howard, like, this is Claire Deering, and then she's like, this is Owen, and he's like, howdy, like all this fucking.
I'm a
dude,
dinosaur
it's
wrangler.
closer than you think. No,
But
sometimes
it's actually
close, though.
It's
there
not
are
pretty
times-
good.
It's okay,
Dude, it's pretty good. I'll say it's pretty good.
I'd
It's
say he's
okay.
pretty good.
It's
Me
okay.
and Chris think no. Me and
He's
Chris are
pretty
pretty good.
indistinguishable.
Yeah,
But
it's
one
pretty
thing I want
solid.
to I rewind
don't
back
think
to.
that, Jesus.
That's
But
where the
I've
budget
only
went,
played
guys.
part
The
of
budget went
Arizona.
there.
I've only played part of Arizona, and I don't. So I've got a lot of game to play and listen to this fake Owen.
Well, the second level though, I want to rewind, is talking about big play spaces. The second level, your buildable area is very tiny, but you take the vehicle or the helicopter and you drive through this massive. No. The second level. Well, that's another great example. But the second level is the second level is the one where you track down the Allosaurus.
Oh, almost Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's huge. The play space in which you can drive through on that level
It's very
not
annoying
build,
driving that stupid
but
space, though.
it is huge.
It's
so
massive.
they obviously can render. They can obviously render wide spans of land filled with trees and foliage. So it's not a technical restraint. I
think it is still, because the playable space stuff that you.
The playable space is super
very
tiny.
very narrow. I think that's the issue. That's where the issue arises.
But why?
Why they do that? You get games like Cities XL, which is a city builder, and you can have giant play spaces. And like, I just don't understand why they.
Yeah, it's not that
it doesn't make sense. To me.
I mean, their engine might struggle with it, but the thing is I was even thinking
the
about
game
it,
is struggling itself.
Not
on PS5, if you're not on, even
on
issues.
PS5, man. I'm on PS5. Well, it's not great.
So I wrote about it in my review. I had multiple crashes. I had the game crash on me multiple times. Yeah, Xbox Series X, and the frame rate chugs, especially when I built like a huge functioning park on Isla Nublar for the Jurassic World level. The frame rate in some areas that were dense,
60. It can hit sub 30. I'm pretty sure
it would start
30.
strobing at times. And then the other thing is there's a lot of technical issues where there's with the draw distance, rather than like shadows fading in and out, they just turn off and on. But it's not just shadows. Sometimes it's lighting. Like trees, at a certain distance, lighting will just turn off and on. Like you get a little closer and lighting turns on. You back up a little bit, lighting turns away. Now this might sound like a small complaint. Graphical, it's like, hey, it's not great, but whatever. Well, the thing is when you're up above in bird's eye view and you need to identify what's going on, you need to find your dinosaur and click on them, and then you start zooming in, and then all this shit starts popping in. You suddenly lose sight of it because there was this nice clean play space, and rather than it being rendered in properly, suddenly all these shadows and lighting things, and you just lose track of it because the entire visual depiction changes, and then it starts chugging, and then it might crash. No, this game needed more time in the oven because it's almost there. It's got the ingredients. It's not as good as it could have been. It's not as evolved as it should have been. But it's got the ingredients, and it just needed more time in the oven.
It's funny because last night I even had some errors and problems with it myself. So the frame rate dropping, that was something that was happening. And I know I'm playing on a PS4, so I'm past generation now. But the Triceratops in the first level, when you're having to trank them and then get them up, it takes two rounds to trank them fully. So when they're in that first round, two of them were just frozen off the ground, running.
Yes, I've had issue with those random,
and then they all of a sudden jumped and they weren't in that location anymore. They were somewhere else.
See, I never had them jump.
I was just like, what the hell, man? It's like this stuff didn't even happen in the first game.
But wait until it happens. Wait until it happens to one of your dinosaurs in your enclosures and they get frozen in place, and therefore they're not feeding. So then they start starving to death and becoming dehydrated.
That happened to my stupid Coelophysis too. It would just randomly start dying. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Wait until that happens, and then your entire park rating starts tanking, and then your dinosaurs start becoming unhappy. Or wait until it happens in one of your aviaries. So then your aviary,
you can't trank dinosaurs in aviaries. I found out the hard way.
The AI has to do it automatically with the drone. But guess what can happen? The drones
What drones?
The drones get stuck.
I didn't even know there were drones in this game.
So when you assign a ranger to a aviary hatchery to like medicate your dinosaurs or tranquilize them or whatever inside the aviary, the ranger drives up to the hatchery, and then they take control of a drone, and the drone flies around and does the task. The problem is the drone can get stuck in the hatchery bay door, and it will just sit there. So then
What?
your
didn't even
flying
know
reptiles, then your flying reptiles are continuing to spread their sickness or whatever is going on, and the drone's just sitting there doing nothing, and the rangers just it'll go on for 20 minutes.
How did this happen though? How did this happen?
I don't understand.
So
Rushing.
broken. It is so broken.
And they
the
even
game
had
is
a delay.
The game is
game was
barely in
delayed.
evolution. The game
I
is
know they
barely
did.
in evolution over the first game, and it is quite a bit broken. It has so many issues that can be game breaking. It is frustrating. It can be a lot of fun, but it is very, very frustrating. This is not what a AAA title for a massive franchise should be. This needed more time in the oven. It should not have released in this state. It honestly should have released in a state that was more advanced from the first game in terms of gameplay anyhow. Things like docks or, it's about building your own park. So why can't I build my own park with the different rides, exhibits, and everything else like that? Instead, we're using the same buildings as the first game. They added the Paleo Medical Center and a few other small things, but no new rides. There's no catwalks for your guests to walk over. There's no you don't get to build your own park is the thing. And the other thing is they took features away from the first game in terms of decorations. Well, you know how in the first game you can build decorations of trees and whatnot. You can't do decorative trees.
Oh, right. I didn't like that.
Trees are only tied to the food now. So the problem is you can't build your food trees and then build things that don't necessarily modify the environment like that. The other issue is the foliage and rocks are tied to the environment that you're playing in. So you can't build a forest. You can't build a forest out in the desert, everything like that. It's you think that you should be able to do that at least in sandbox mode. I know it doesn't really make sense, but the other game allowed you to they had a few basic decorative trees. The decorations in the game are very small. There's the Jurassic Park signs, a few Jurassic World signs, and that's it. It's just not really a whole lot there for the decorative elements.
I haven't delved in yet.
The terrain tools are the same as the first game, but I think it would be better if you
a little bit clunkier.
They should have taken a Forge approach at least, where maybe there's some pre-built giant terrain pieces that instead of
I almost feel like
Speaking of Forge, did you hear that Halo Infinite multiplayer might be launching Monday?
I don't have an Xbox in Edmonton. It's at home in Ottawa.
Oh, well, you better get that shipped to you so we can play.
I was going to say, did you find the terrain in Operation Genesis, the terrain controls were better in that game than they are in both Evolution and Evolution 2?
But there's a lot more happening in the terrain in this game, so I understand why it's more complicated. You have a lot more graphical functions. You have a lot more grass. You have just a lot more going on.
I never found in part 1 it worked, though. I was I need to level this, and you try and level it, and you're like, nope, that's not working. Okay, let me raise the terrain here. It's okay, no, it's raised the wrong section. Okay.
Hard to do. That's hard to do, though. I understand.
It's frustrating, but what I do understand that you can't necessarily make these crazy terrain adjustments in that terrain tool. What I do wish that you had the option is maybe as in decorations, or maybe they're terrain pieces. It's hey, you know what I want? I want to build part of my park up on an elevated cliff face, a plateau. I wish that there was just a plateau piece. It's just a big piece that you can slam down and then it's buildable on top of, within a slope that comes off it. I wish there were some pre-built terrain pieces that you can then use to build on and around, that then you can then work with the terrain tools to make it look like that. The other issue is if you start screwing around with the terrain and then you take control of your ranger teams, good luck, because you just might slam into the ground and flip over or get stuck on it can be, and it's very frustrating when time is of the essence and you're sitting there trying to stop a breakout, trying to stop you from going into the negative money. And then your ranger just gets stuck against the sidewalk. And you're like, what is going on? There's a tiny little slope.
It's a little divot.
A tiny little divot, and your car's just stuck. And then next thing you know, your IREX ate somebody and you lost $1 million. And next thing you know, you're in the red and you're like, all right, I need to load my save from 15
Yes. Oh my God. Every time with the Raptors. Those goddamn Raptors in Jurassic Park.
And once you get better at it, you can start to figure out ways to avoid those situations. But the thing is the gameplay shouldn't actively be punishing you. It should be challenging you. And I feel like it's actively punishing you.
I think it's sad that
especially with glitches.
As a huge Jurassic fan, I didn't. There really wasn't that much excitement for me to actually play this. When it came down, once it had installed okay, and it was there, I was just like, oh. Yeah, okay, yeah, right. I'll play it. And then after a bit of time in Arizona, I jumped into Grand Theft Auto, the definitive edition of Grand Theft Auto 3, because that came out yesterday. Yeah, Vice City, San Andreas, and GTA 3.
I love Vice City.
lot of fun, man. I'm playing them in order because I did that when I was young. They're great games, so I'm playing GTA 3 first. But I can't wait to get to Vice City, and I can't wait to get to San Andreas. I spent a lot of time.
San Andreas is cool.
San Andreas,
Crazy.
best Grand Theft Auto.
Speaking of Vice City, Chris is drinking vodka from a. I guess
no,
water
it's
bottle?
water, but it tastes like carrots.
That's good for
I
you.
just opened a water bottle and I took a sip and it tastes like carrots, and I'm very confused and concerned by that.
That is a perfect segue to the next segment.
Wait, I did want to say one thing real quick. Is a lot of people
always have something else to say.
Yeah, one thing. A lot of people read my review.
Perfect segues is what happens.
Always, every
I know.
time.
Well, that's actually what I'm here for. A lot of people read my review when it first came out, before the game was out, and they read my review, and they're like, "Man, all these other reviews are pretty positive." Like,
yes, people.
Yes,
Chris.
Careful,
you an apology. Yes.
But
careful.
But I've had a lot of people contact me afterwards and went like, "Damn, you were on point."
A lot
of people.
All
I've
like, seen on Twitter is people saying, "Hey, I started Evolution 2 tonight, and I just finished it. What the fuck?"
Remember I texted you guys yesterday? I'm like, this better not be it. There's no way. I'm gonna fight.
I think it's a weird release. A weird release to say that. But sorry, Chris, you said carrot water, and that reminded me. So last week or the week before, Christopher James Pugh, Caleb James Burnett, and Derek James Davis interviewed the legendary, the iconic, the legacy of Jurassic Park, John
like
Bell.
you're being sarcastic, but you're not.
I love John Bell, man.
I'm not being. I'm being serious. They interviewed Mr. John Bell himself. What an absolute legend! He is the concept artist behind. He designed the Jurassic Park vehicles, the tour vehicle, the Scrap vehicle, the gates, the visitor center, the Barbasol. Wait, he designed the interior of the Barbasol Canyon. He didn't design the Barbasol.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
He's an absolute legend, and they got the chance to speak to him. Chris, what was that like?
It was a really great chat. He was really conversational. He had a lot to say. He knows about Primanti Brothers sandwiches in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, we ate there. We ate there with Tom Fishenden.
Yeah, the important things. He knew about the important things. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you're from Pittsburgh, then you must like Primanti's." I'm like, did not expect that. Turns out there's a Primanti's offshoot. I think in
I feel left out
in LA. It's not called Primanti's, but it's owned by the same people.
I feel left out. I was on a shoot when you guys did the interview. I was very jealous, but it sounded like a really good interview. It is a really good interview, and we're going to jump into that now. And don't worry, after this lovely interview with the three Jameses and Mr. John Bell, me and Assis and Chris, we will be back. Don't you worry about that. We will be back. But yeah, enjoy the interview.
So how did you become the art director of Jurassic Park?
Well, I'd been working at ILM from, I started in ILM in the fall of 1985, and I was working on Star Trek 4. And then just kind of, when you're working at ILM, at least back then, I think it's pretty much the same way it is now, is once you finish up one project, you just kind of dovetail into the next and into the next and into the next. So I finished working on Star Trek 4, and then got right into Willow after that in 86. And then the summer of 86, ILM management came in to the art department, which the art department at that time was Dave Carson and myself. And they came into the art department and they said, Bob wants to do a sequel to Back to the Future, and we have no script. We know we're going to go 30 years in the future, and there's something called a hoverboard. And so I just started coming up with ideas of what Hill Valley would look like, hoverboards, etc. And then from there, I know we're talking about Jurassic Park right now, but then after Back to the Future, then I got into Rocketeer, Cocoon, The Return. And in the summer of 91, I wanted to take a break from ILM. So I put in my request for PTO, and I was going to take off the whole summer and just go on a little road trip and see what was going on around different parts of the country. And my girlfriend at the time was Joanna Johnston. She's a costume designer. And she was working on Far and Away up in Billings, Montana. So I drove up there and spent a few weeks up there, and got a call at the hotel. Rick Carter, I don't know how he found me because I didn't tell anybody I was going to Billings, Montana. Rick Carter called and contacted me, and he said, I'm working on a new project, Jurassic Park. I said, what? Jurassic? What's that? And he says, it's this book. You got to read this book. It's Michael Crichton's new book, and it's about dinosaurs and blah, blah, blah. And they get loose and all havoc ensues. And so I said, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And he said, well, when can you come down? I said, Rick, I'm up in Montana right now. He says, well, when can you come down? So we negotiated back and forth. Anyhow, I started in September 91 was when I moved down from the Bay Area and started in the art department on Jurassic Park in September 91. That's my long story.
Hey, we like long stories here, so that's okay. As long as you want. And never feel bad about talking about Back to the Future, by the way, because that movie is equally amazing in its own way. All of them, all three of them. So.
I just love the fact that Rick Carter was able to track you down somehow.
Yeah. I don't know how he found me. Maybe he must have gone through Joanna, talking to somebody who knew Joanna, and Joanna said, oh yeah, he's at Montana. I don't know.
That's amazing.
It all worked out well.
Yeah, it's definitely meant to be.
Yeah, that's how those things go. So
yeah, it's all a matter of so much luck and timing involved with these shows and getting involved with the shows. It could have been anyone, but it was just me being there at the right place, the right time.
It's usually how it works in Hollywood, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, what was it like working with Rick Carter?
Rick was, coming from, again, I have to kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about my experience on Back to the Future, because he came up in 88, the fall of 88. He'd seen the stuff that I'd done in 86, the 30 drawings, and we'd send a slide sheet down to Zemeckis, and 2 years had gone by. And so in 88, Rick came up with a couple other, I think he came up with maybe Steve Starkey. Can't remember. Anyway, I was called into a meeting with Ken Ralston and Rick and a few other people at ILM, and Rick got me involved in Back to the Future. So we hit it off. He really liked the work I'd done on that, and he, unbeknownst to me, he kept my name in his head. And so when Jurassic started to roll up, he contacted me, and so he got me involved. And he is such a generous guy, though. I remember with the first couple days that I came into the art department, they'd already been doing so much work. Tom Cranham, Marty Klein, Jim Teagarden. He had a whole big art department going full steam on this thing by the time I showed up. But still, he said, we've done a lot of work on it. Take a look at what's being done. Look at the script, and I want you to just come up with whatever interests you, whatever turns you on, as he puts it, and just start coming up with ideas. And so that's what I did. I just started coming up with ideas for the vehicles and for props and scenes, storyboard scenes, and just a random, assortment of things. And it just kind of blossomed from there. But it's just Rick being really generous, to answer your question.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, for him to think of you, because the way I see it is, when I think of Jurassic Park beyond the movie, I think of your artwork in the original making of book, and just the way your work exudes that personality.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it just really speaks to all of us, I think I can say. And what's interesting is there's a lot of darker elements of the novel, like the baby raptor perched on the human baby's crib in one of your illustrations. And when was it decided to scale back on the darker concepts?
Boy, I don't know particulars on that one, but I was always wanting it to be pushed darker, and I think I should have known better, because if Steven was directing the movie, I knew it was going to have to appeal to kids, because he knows how much kids are enamored by and inspired by dinosaurs. So I just figured it can't be as dark as I was hoping for. And so I think he just started scaling back that stuff from the novel pretty early on.
Yeah, because we've never even seen like artwork depicting like the pteranodons, for example. I mean, that's never something we've seen. So I guess they cut that pretty early too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as you know, did you ever potentially even work on some rough sketches, or did anybody else work on anything regarding the pteranodon scene from the first Jurassic Park?
Yeah, not that I recall. And I know I had done that one sketch with the baby raptor on the crib, and it never went anywhere. I think by the time I had done that, it had already been decided we're going in a whole different direction tone-wise.
That's a shame because I love that illustration. Like I love the darker stuff from the book, especially that scene because it's such a creepy image. Dark implications.
And I didn't really understand the whole scale between like a Wrangler Jeep and a T-Rex. I thought, and I drew up a sketch of this, that the T-Rex just devours the whole Jeep like a shark would. So I'd done a sketch like that, and we went, man, is the scale really right? Can a T-Rex really do that?
Yeah, I think that was since I was like lifted from Crichton, like the T-Rex lifts the car up in the book. So I mean, I think that's where they got that from. But I mean, no, you're right. Like that was a bit of a silly thing, and I think it was Phil Tippett who came up with the suggestion to Spielberg to cut that out.
Probably. Yeah, Phil was great the whole show through. He was fantastic.
Did you guys work together much on it?
Yeah, he and I kind of went way back to the Willow days. That's where I first got introduced to him, and so getting a chance to work with him and Dennis Muren and those guys again on Jurassic was fantastic. Because Phil's just like a high energy, no bullshit type of guy. He's going to tell like it is, and he'll bleed for his art for sure.
No, that's great. We love seeing that kind of dedication for our franchise here.
Yeah, there were some funny stories with him and Paul Verhoeven on Starship Trooper too. Those two are pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, well they almost did a dinosaur movie together, right?
Did they really? I didn't know that.
That would have been something.
Yeah, that would have been nuts, huh?
I've had the chance to talk to Phil, and I absolutely just love how candid he is and just how passionate he is. Like you said, just sort of no bullshit, but he's very invested, and I just appreciate that level of just earnest candidacy who just says what he's thinking.
Yeah, you don't come across that too often these days.
No, not at all. It's always a lot of people play politics with their words. I find, especially, I mean, which sometimes you got to, but yeah, it's very rare to find somebody that can successfully navigate the industry while remaining that candid.
Yeah.
There was another concept art with Dennis Nedry, and he was seen in the Jeep trying to get to the East Dock during like a rainy storm, but he's kind of cut off by toppled construction machinery that's in the way. Now, was that just an idea that you came up with, or was it something that you saw in a script?
I think that was something, a lot of these memories, it might be kind of foggy because we're going back, almost 30 years or something.
Yeah.
So if I remember right, I think I was just going through the script and just making some preliminary little thumbnails of moments that I thought would be pretty cool to bring to color and bring to life. And I think that was one of them. It was such a dramatic scene, and I wanted to just illustrate that and see what that would look like. The muddy slopes.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I love the way it looks with those muddy slopes, and just looks like a very devastating, place for him to be during, what's supposed to be a very time-sensitive moment of the story. So
yeah, here it is. He's cut off in the rain and the muck, and then he's going to encounter the dinosaur. And yeah, that was a great scene. That was a fun scene.
Yeah, totally. And I like how it's different in your vision of it, because in the film, it doesn't come across like machinery like that. Instead, it's just hits the sign and doesn't know where to go, and then he ends up going down a hill basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think your concept is more interesting, in my opinion. Yeah.
If you get a chance, talk to David Lowery. He did so much of the storyboarding, the final storyboarding on the film. really entertaining, very colorful character.
Well, I mean, speaking of storyboarding, you did several sequences of your own for Jurassic Park that kind of evolved as, time went on, and some of them were cut entirely. And I know one of those was John Hammond being left behind on the island with, his fate in the hands of the dinosaurs. And we've seen several other variations of his death, including, death by compies in the visitor center, or death by raptors in the movie theater, and even falling on a park model by a raptor. So I mean, were you guys just trying to come up with fun ways to kill John Hammond?
Yeah, I think a lot of those probably were sketched up by Tom Cranham and maybe David Lowery. I can't remember who did the drawings for those, but I liked him kind of being left out in the jungle on his own. And then you pull back to see that wide swath that the brachiosaurs have traveled through and across the island. I don't know, I just liked him being out there all on his own with no protection at all.
Yeah, that seemed like a fitting end for the older version of that character. He was more of like a menacing character in the book and even in the early versions of the screenplays. So yeah, I felt like that was a pretty fitting, sort of depressing end, which is great.
Yeah. Again, I think it was just too dark. The tone was a little too dark for what Steven wanted to do with it.
It's kind of funny. I've wondered if that concept is what inspired in a early version of Jurassic Park 3, one of the versions, I think the version that was tossed about 6 weeks before they filmed. Grant stays behind on Sorna at the end of it, and there's a very similar shot where they're leaving on a helicopter, and Grant's just kind of standing there in the forest, left behind, but by his own volition, though, is the difference. But the way that it's described kind of invokes a similar imagery to the piece of art that you did there.
Yeah, maybe it did inspire. You never know what comes out and what's picked up in people's heads and gets hung on to.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, hell, hybrids predate. I think hybrids date back even further than people realize. I mean, Spielberg had a maquette made, a realistic maquette for something called an Ultimasaurus back in 95, 96, and it sat in his office for a long time. And it's something that he really, I think even in The Lost World, he experimented with the idea of a super raptor or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that just sometimes a concept can spark an idea and really shape things in the future.
Yeah.
One of those things was even in the original Jurassic Park, is there was the inclusion of lava fields in some of the concept art, which that was inspired from the novel, of course, but then it ended up being carried over into Fallen Kingdom eventually. Do you remember anything about the lava fields, or just kind of white noise for the production?
No, I don't remember anything about the lava fields. I'm trying to think, was there any artwork in the making of the first book, The Art of, that had anything with the lava fields in it?
No, but I found some.
Of course you did.
As I think I've sent you. I think I've sent it to you, but that was a long time ago. I know I'm pretty proactive in uncovering lost worlds of concept art.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it dates back to how Jurassic Park was powered, from geothermal power, which was something that the book established. And the movies don't really acknowledge it, although there's a lot of background stuff to suggest it still exists. They just don't really put the camera on it. And I think that's when, at the end, when the geothermal fields were where the raptors made their nests underground in the novel. And I think in some of the early ideas, or the early explorations, at least, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
But I don't think you ever finished reading the novel, did you, John?
Nope. To this day, I still haven't. No.
Wow.
I know, that's bad of me.
Well, it's funny because the movie and the novel are such different animals at the end of the day. So there's so many similarities, and there's just so many differences that they really do have their own identities.
Yeah, and with 90 minutes or 95 minutes, whatever the film ended up being, you can only put in so many things, and you want to have the pacing be correct. You want to have things happening in half an hour and 45 minutes and an hour 15 and all those different points that Hollywood tries to hit with action. So, you kind of have to build your stories around those constructs.
Yeah, no, and I think that sometimes those limitations really serve the story in at least a film and through the lens of a film. I think a lot of movies sometimes have too many. They're afraid to let go of some of their ideas, and you get too many ideas thrown at you at once, and the movie gets a little too bloated. And it might work on paper, but in the final film, sometimes it doesn't quite. It complicates things.
Yeah, there's something to be said about minimalizing your content.
And speaking of books again, because Rick Carter mentioned in the original making of book that he was never a huge dinosaur fan before he worked on the movie. Now, are you the same way, or did you always have an interest in dinosaurs?
No, I always had an interest in them. I can't say I was fanatical about them, but as a kid growing up, sure, we're kids in the neighborhood, myself, my brothers, we were all interested in dinosaurs and anything that had to do with prehistoric era or future. Those were kind of like the two areas that we always gravitated towards. Never the present day. It was always, we're going to go way back in time or we're going to go way forward in the future. So the Jetsons, Flintstones, I don't know what else. Lost World, the original Lost World from 1925 or 27, whatever that was.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
That was always really cool. The King Kong movie, when that was a dinosaur in that too. Or was it pterodactyl?
Yeah, I think it was pterodactyls and King Kong, and I think their version of an Allosaurus, which is bigger than anything on this planet.
Yeah, and they had the Triceratops, the big fighting with the Triceratops.
I think it was Stegosaurus. Yeah,
Stegosaurus. That's right, Stegosaurus. Yeah, that's fantastic.
No, I think that speaks to why the Jurassic franchise is still successful, is because kids are always going to like prehistoric life, and there's always new discoveries being made about it, and it's just a continual thing. So
yeah, our kids growing up just loved them. Just our daughter especially just devoured anything around dinosaurs.
I think one of the things that it's kind of interesting that you say that your interest always, were either way in the future or, in the distant past, is Jurassic Park is this weird hybrid of the past and the future. And its vision of the future is more grounded. And, especially in Jurassic Park, it's meant to be very approachable. It's sort of like The Big Lie is what if technology was just a little bit more advanced? And what if we could clone dinosaurs? But it's interesting how some of those elements were infused in with your vehicle designs. I found just the way that you took a vehicle that existed and then helped shape it into something that became so incredibly iconic. And it sort of felt like something that was slightly parallel to the 90s, but also slightly more advanced and shaped out of the park that created dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I tried a bunch of different brands of vehicles before they settled on the Explorer. And I think Derek knows this, I tried the Range Rover and a Mitsubishi, and I can't remember, there were a couple others that I tried as well.
Suzuki?
Yeah, Suzuki. Yeah. And so it just happened, that they decided the Ford was the way to go. I think Dennis Muren wanted to he was always thinking it would be a scratch-built thing or more like a people mover at Disneyland. Completely open cockpit. Can't remember why I started to gravitate towards using existing vehicles. I don't know. I guess at the time it just made sense to me.
Well, I think that makes sense in the, creation of a park, to use something familiar for guests. Because the dinosaurs are going to be so unfamiliar enough that to go too fantastical with everything else might kind of distract them from the real show, the dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see following a logic like that.
But what do I know?
No, I think Derek's mentioned in one of your conversations before that you're kind of a car aficionado. Did that influence Jurassic Park, but also The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3? Where did your interest in cars start, and how did that influence Jurassic?
I grew up on the East Coast in New Jersey, and we would go to Raceway Park, the drag strip, nearly every weekend. And I just loved fast cars. And that led me to start doing drawings for race car drivers, paint schemes, crazy paint schemes for race cars. And my dad took notice of my interest in cars, and he came back from a trip to California one year and said, hey, there's a school out in Pasadena that has a class all about designing cars. And so I became a car designer. I got into Art Center, and I left Art Center, took a job at General Motors, and was designing cars. So cars have always been an interest for me. And so to have any chance to draw cars for a film is great. I got to do that on Jurassic and on Tucker and even on Rango. Some cars had to be designed, and so I wanted to do those. And the paint scheme for the Explorer was definitely an evolution of the paint scheme designs I would do for the drag racers, which were really colorful, very ostentatious, very bold and in your face. So when I did that one on the Ford Explorer, luckily they gravitated towards that one, because that was my favorite one out of all the ones that I'd done anyhow.
Yeah, that's very cool. That makes perfect sense, actually. So the vibrant colors of a race car and the vibrant colors of that Explorer. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It is just such an iconic, timeless design, and it really blends really well with the sort of safari, the safari adventure park type of look that Jurassic Park has as well. It's this weird blend of vibrancy and I think a little bit of groundedness, and it works, and I think it spoke to people. I know definitely. I think that's probably why it's so timeless.
Yeah, and I think Rick Carter early on was saying, this is pretty much going to be a theme park with dinosaurs. So for me, that just stuck in my head, and doing things that were colorful just made sense, because I had a big attraction to World's Fair buildings and graphics, which are all very colorful and very bold designs. So I don't know, I guess it all just kind of seeped into the project.
That's great. I mean, even in The Lost World, the cars became even more prominent, at least to fans like us. We really appreciated the different designs for those cars. I mean, what were some of the inspirations for the Lost World vehicles?
Those are the Mercedes ones?
Yeah, the Mercedes, and then there's like other ones like the Humvees and, those kind of vehicles to like capture the dinosaurs.
In that film, we had the two factions. We had the hunters and the gatherers, right?
Yeah.
So the hunters, we just wanted to give a more of a militaristic tone to everything. And so we were looking at things that were more angular and severe and in shape form. And then the gatherers were a little more passive. And I think they'd already struck a deal. When I got involved, they'd already struck a deal with Mercedes to use SUVs in that film. So it was really a matter of, okay, what can we do to these SUVs, these Mercedes, and retain their identity, but also build in some of that Jurassic vibe.
Well, and you also did the mobile lab, the trailers.
Yeah. Again, I can't remember if they'd already picked a brand to use for that trailer or not. And so it's just me coming up with a paint scheme and some, additional exterior pieces, and then working on some of the interior layout to get it all sorted out and make it feel like it works with the rest of the gatherer's equipment and vehicles. I just want to, visually tie them all together so there's some continuity, so the audience can easily recognize, if you see this colorway, you see the shape language, it's going to be the gatherers, and if you see this more severe, it's going to be more recognizable as the hunters.
Something I always loved was just the direction you went with customizing the vehicles in terms of like up armoring them or adding the capture cages or the capture arms or the different like observational towers and whatnot onto these vehicles. And what I think is what really spoke to me is it'd be really easy to like make them look super brutal or like super edgy, but they look very grounded. There's a sense of adventure, even in the hunters. There's a sense of adventure and fun to the vehicle designs, and but they also certainly are unique and customized. And those vehicles have always stuck with me. I've got to say that I've always loved the work on The Lost World.
Thank you. Well, that jump seat on the side of the Hummer in that one drawing, that came from that movie, that old Hatari. You know, the guys that are hunting rhinoceros in Africa.
Yep. Yeah.
They had somebody sitting on a front fender, I think, in that movie. And I think that jump seat idea might have come directly from Steven, from his recollection of the movie Hatari. I can't remember, but I think there's a correlation there where Steven wanted to do something like that, but in a more modern version. Pretty crazy sequence. I mean, they've got a real rhino bashing into their car.
Hatari is wild. It's just fascinating and very cool for me that those two films have that connection, because I think Spielberg wanted The Lost World to have sort of an old Hollywood sort of gritty feel too. So
what was it like working with Spielberg in general?
Again, another really generous guy. He was really good with just letting the ideas flow, and he encouraged the people around him, or at least my experience was I was able to freely verbally throw out ideas, and he would either run with them or he would shut them down. But, you know, you didn't take it personally. He's like, he had the big picture in his head, and if your ideas fed into where he was going, then he was going to take it and run with it. So working with him, you know, was a blast. I had the greatest time. Yeah, just super generous with his time and his thoughts, and again, you know, allowing me to help influence and spur on other ideas for the film. I got a chance to work with him on a couple other projects as well, but yeah, Jurassic was great.
Didn't you also work with him on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, artificial intelligence, and then he also helped get me in as a production designer on animated feature Ants back in the late 90s. It was DreamWorks' first animated feature. So yeah, that was great. And then I'm trying to think of what else. I guess AI was the last time that I got to work directly with him.
No, and so many great designs in that film, for sure. That's one of my favorite Spielberg films, honestly. It's just such a very dark movie, very dark sci-fi movie.
Yeah. He was really fun. Miss working with him.
And rewinding back to The Lost World, because I know you didn't work on The Lost World quite as much as Jurassic Park. You kind of did it remotely, right?
Yeah. I was living up in the Bay Area at that time. So I only got to come down, you know, kind of bounce in and out of the art department a little bit, but mostly working, by myself up in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and because you did other concepts beyond just the vehicles. Like one of my favorite designs of yours were the life pods. Yeah. I love that idea. And you did like at least 2 or 3 different designs, and my favorite one looks like a coffin with spikes on it.
Yeah, I know, that's kind of nutty.
What's funny is that got directly translated into a toy. Even though that scene didn't make it into the movie, there was a toy that was basically a coffin with spikes on it that the T-Rex would swallow.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw that. That's funny. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, that was the Kenner Bull T-Rex toy, and it would swallow the coffin. The spikes would shoot out. It had a little dude inside of it. He looked terrified. It was a really funny toy.
That's great.
Yeah, we always kind of wondered like where that came from, because I don't think that was in the novel from what I recall. So like, how did that idea come about for you?
Man, I think just reading the life pods and how they were going to be used as a survival mode, I just started coming up with different ideas. And I thought, well, if the thing's got spikes on it, the dinosaurs aren't going to try to bite it if it's got spikes. I just thought of it as a porcupine, basically.
That's great.
There was another one where it's like a big barrel that you hit in.
Yeah, there was that barrel concept that you did as well. I want to say, I can't recall if it was an actual life pod in the novel, but I definitely remember there's a scene where like Arby, the character Arby, who eventually got cut from the film, climbs into a small cage, and actually the raptors like grab it and start rolling him around and running away with him as he's in the cage, and they have to eventually rescue him. And I imagine that's where the life pod came from, was like this sort of like last ditch, like hop in a cage and don't get eaten type of situation.
Yeah, that could be. That's funny.
Now for Jurassic Park 3, I know you were very briefly involved with that movie, and you did some motorcycle designs, but none of them appear in the movie. So what happened with that? Like,
yeah, God only knows. They just asked me to come up with some motorcycles and ATVs, and so I do, and then it's kind of out of my hands at that point. I don't know. I don't remember what happened with those. It must have just been a couple days here and there that I was able to work on that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So that's the extent of your involvement with JP3. There wasn't like earlier, like just kind of rougher sketches or ideas tossed around in an art form.
No, that was it. Yeah, and the same with the ones that came out just a few years ago too. Was just give us some ideas for the gate to the park, and give us some ideas on what the visitor center might look like now. And it was really limited time. They're only giving me a budget for like 3 days or 5 days or something. So
oh geez, yeah.
You made quite an impression on it though, because I mean you created a whole map.
Yeah, that was specifically asked for. Hey John, can you do a map for the island? I said, yeah, I like doing maps. Yeah, that'd be fun.
It's funny, as soon as your artwork came out for Jurassic Park 4, Jurassic World, everyone just immediately was like, why doesn't the park look like that in the movie? I mean, I think the movie looks cool, but I think it's my takeaway is a lot of the movie sort of just looks like your average sort of city walk at Universal Studios, which I know was a distinct design choice. But I think seeing that your artwork really kind of invokes the imagination a little bit more, like where Jurassic Park sort of had its own visual identity. The artwork you did for Jurassic Park 4, damn, is it cool.
Thanks.
It really kills me that we didn't get to see that on screen in some form or fashion. There's certain elements I think that remained influential, but that really kind of just brings my imagination to life looking at that artwork.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to agree. The gates with the that are basically constructed out of brachiosaurs on each side, or the amber sculpture with the DNA structure around it. Like, it's such a great mix of theme park corporate, but also bringing the natural in, and it's really incredible.
It has that safari adventure feeling that I think Jurassic Park really introduced, and I don't think the final product of Jurassic World really recaptured that certain aspect. And I know that it did mean, and part of its visual identity was to go more cold and corporate.
Yeah,
but I almost feel like they leaned into it too heavily, because it sort of made the movie feel different. The visual identity, the way the frame looked, the color palette, even.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks. I'm glad you guys like those.
That is definitely something that I look at constantly and kind of go, I wonder if they can ever find a way to, maybe they'll draw their inspiration for Biosyn from it or something.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
That is one of those pieces that I hope that eventually be revisited.
Thanks.
And it's interesting because in the making of Jurassic Park, Rick Carter said that he was kind of trying to shy away from making it too polished and corporate, which is what ended up happening in Jurassic World. Even further, they didn't retain, that natural essence that, you still kept in your concept art for the fourth movie. So it's interesting that they kind of disregarded what Rick Carter said.
Yeah, sometimes Hollywood doesn't make the best decisions, do they?
Yeah, and I think that it's partly probably a limitation of the production of Jurassic World became quite. I mean, everyone knows that Jurassic Park 4 was in production hell for a very long time, but even the production of Jurassic World had its hitches. The studio started scaling back the budget drastically before shooting. Got to the point where they scared away brand partners and retailers, where basically they're like, the studio has no faith in this movie. Like, we're not going to take these products. And it was definitely like one of those things where originally the budget was higher, and then they tried to scale it back to like the budget of the movie Oblivion, which was, I think, shot on a surprisingly tight budget. And then eventually you got a little bit more wiggle room. But I think that it's one of the things that kind of went and changed the visual design, because they were going to film at Six Flags, like an abandoned Six Flags, and they wanted to use as much of the standing architecture as they could. And I think that is what kind of influenced the final design, that very Universal City Walk. Because then they also, I know there's an interview with Frank Marshall where he said they were hoping to film at Universal City Walk. So I think ultimately the design was influenced by the technical and financial constraints of the film in the end. But it's a shame that even like with some fanciful facades, they didn't try to invoke a little bit more of that adventure to it.
Yeah, that's a shame. Always plays into it.
Especially now when the studios are chasing these big franchises, and everyone wants the next big hit. And I think that these movies cost a lot of money to make, and now there's certain goals that want to be hit. So I think it's like only the really, really big movies get made, or the really, really small movies get made, and those things that sort of fit in the middle feel like they're non-existing in the cinema space, at least maybe in TV more so than film.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish they would have included in the movie certain things that your map had, like a roller coaster, like a raptor theater, or brachiosaur restaurant. I mean, like, were those things like in the script, or did you just have free reign to come up with those locations?
I think it was just free reign. I think I don't recall anybody calling out any specifics. It was just keeping in mind that it's basically a theme park with dinosaurs. So what would this map look like? So I just ran with it.
It is funny. I wonder if some of those locations you did inspired some of the drafts, because some of those locations then existed for a little bit in other pieces of concept art and other drafts. So I wonder if it's one of those things where it just sort of kind of helped build the world before it then ultimately got scaled back.
Yeah, maybe.
And who is Richard Tanner? Because that's the name that's on your gate, Richard Tanner's Jurassic Park.
Really?
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Wait, on the Lost World one, on the one from 2015.
Yeah, for 2015 Jurassic Park 4. Yeah. Richard Tanner.
I guess that was in the script.
Okay, yeah. We don't know who that is.
It's no relative of mine. I've never known anybody named Richard Tanner. I think that was whatever script I was working from. I think that was a name that was in there, because I wouldn't have put it on there for any other reason. I mean, the way I'd had on the Ford Explorers, I had John Hammond's Jurassic Park on the sketch, I think. Yeah. But they didn't want that on there.
I'm guessing it's funny though, because we've heard like a lot of the different characters and whatnot from early Jurassic Park 4 stories that eventually became Jurassic World, and Richard Tanner is just one of the ones where we're like, who the hell is Richard Tanner? But I wonder if he was the character that preceded in the final film. There's a character, Simon Mizrahi, who has the very Hammond-like role of the park owner and whatnot. And I'm wondering if that character was like a very similar, like the predecessor to Simon Mizrahi, because when Colin came in and took over, he followed, I mean, like the open park was already a thing. There's already going to be a mosasaur feeding arena. There are raptors that were trained. A lot like, there was a hybrid, or at that time, I think it was like a newly discovered super dinosaur. But most of the concepts are there, and he just sort of kind of rebuilt the characters from scratch. But I guess it's sort of like a similar thing to Jurassic Park 3, just with more time, where you're trying to keep as true to like a lot of the core foundational elements, but kind of make the story your own within that.
It's funny, Richard Tanner.
Richard Tanner.
I wish I had kept that script so I could have perused over it again.
They didn't let you keep any, huh?
I've got from the original film. I got the script, and I think I have a Lost World script too.
Yeah, it's actually crazy because normally after a film comes out, over time the scripts come out, but for whatever reason with Jurassic World, its scripts have remained elusive. However, there's the 2004 John Sayles Jurassic Park 4 script, which was a trip, let me tell you. I don't know if you're familiar with that story at all, but it was pretty wild. I mean, they had like ankylosaurs being airdropped out of like planes, and it really leaned heavily into the militarized raptor aspect, and there was like a evil count who had like a castle full of dinosaurs in like the Swiss Alps. It was absurd. It was really well written. It just wasn't well written as a Jurassic Park movie, if that makes sense. Like when I'm reading it, I'm like, this is very enjoyable. It's not Jurassic Park, but boy, is it fun. I mean, there's a scene with like a drug lord fighting like a Dilophosaurus in his hot tub. It's bizarre. It's one of those things that I'm like, man, I hope artwork exists to that, and I hope eventually it will make it into a making of book or something like that, because it's a trip.
Sounds great.
And that's what preceded Carlos Uante art. I'm not sure if you've seen some of those artwork pieces where they're like the human dinosaur hybrid concepts.
No, I haven't seen his. I know Carlos from when we worked at ILM together.
Yeah, he worked with Joe Johnston on a Jurassic Park 4 concept back in 2006.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, Spielberg really liked the idea of dinosaur hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe was trying to dial back the idea a little bit. So he kind of brought Carlos in, and his first directive was like, make the artwork as crazy as possible. So the studio goes, okay, let's dial it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like the artwork that Carlos came in, it's really, again, really, really cool looking artwork. But I mean, we're talking human dinosaur hybrids, like, raptor people. They look more like, the lizard, or there's like, it's really cool looking artwork. It's really cool. And I guess they only worked on that direction for like a week or two, because like then the studio execs saw the artwork and they're like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Yeah, Jurassic Park 4 had a wild story of a production history leading up to it.
Oh my gosh.
Now, before I forget, I have to let you know that Jack, the owner of Jurassic Outpost, he bought some of your Jurassic Park 4 art and exchanged some messages with you a while back. He couldn't join us today, but he just wanted to say that he's a huge fan of your work.
Oh, tell him thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So when you begin working on a project, like, are there any films or music or other art that you consume yourself with to be influenced, particularly on the later Jurassic franchise?
Well, I can't say any particular piece of music, but I always have music on in the studio. But it's a real hodgepodge of mix, from soundtracks to rave type music to alternative music, country music. It's all over the board. So I can't say there's any type of music that I listen to get in the mood. It's always just kind of rolling around. And then when if I'm working on a particular film, I really want to get a hold of the script as soon as possible, because anything that's going to make it to the end and make it to the final screening is going to be a derivative of the script, either directly or indirectly. So as soon as I can get my hands on that, that's going to drive everything that I try to create.
So the more intense music was on when you were doing like the baby raptor that's about to eat the baby in the bassinet, right?
Well, during that whole 91 era, that's from like 89 to 94. That was me being deeply involved in the whole rave scene. So there's a lot of techno and electronic music going on in the art department at Jurassic Park.
Now I'm just going to imagine that from now on when I think about when you guys worked on the film, just a lot of, rave and trance music. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love it. I still love it. I still listen to it today. I just love it.
It's honestly some really good music, just to kind of cut yourself off from everything and work on some projects. I do that while filming or when drawing and everything like that. It works.
Yeah, it's great.
Did you ever get to visit any of the sets for any of the movies, and what did you see?
Well, yeah, I mean, on the first one, I got to see, everything that was being done at Universal. As far as successive ones, no, I didn't get to see anything. But going on the first one, being on the set all the time was fantastic. It's one thing to see it on a computer screen. Oh yeah, you built a model. That's a cool model. But then when you go onto a stage and you see that they're building a gigantic tree that's going to hold a Ford Explorer in it, or if they're going to have another stage where they're going to be filling it full of water and mud. I mean, that's a whole nother sense of Hollywood magic. Everything being done on a computer is kind of boring, I think.
Yeah. All the blue screen.
If I didn't have to work on a computer, I surely wouldn't.
Yeah, it's sort of a double-edged blade. It opens up communication options, but there's something said about working in person and being there on the fly and seeing it. And
yeah, real models. I mean, when we walked into Stan Winston's studio, and there's the T-Rex, and it's 18 feet tall and it's 40 feet long, and you go, Jesus H, you can't, there's no way you're going to survive this thing. Or even the raptors, and you're looking eye to eye, this thing has got a head as big as a mailbox, and he's got, a mouthful of teeth that can eat you up. You think the kids have no chance getting out of that kitchen. These creatures would make mincemeat out of them so fast.
Yeah, it does not get more realistic or more intimate than actually having something like that. Yeah. And it just opens up, it allows you to actually put it on camera and see what works, what doesn't work. And you can on the fly change your framing, change your lens. And if you want it to look bigger, you don't have to digitally make it bigger. You can play with camera angles instead. And I think that just gives such a sense of tacticality, even in the film. As well as making it, it's probably a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So were there any concepts that you recall making for any of the Jurassic Park films that were not featured in the final film that you wish would have?
The spiked coffin, of course.
Yes. Well, I agree.
Gosh, I mean, those gates for Jurassic 2015, those, I really liked some of those gates. I thought they were pretty cool. So yeah, I wish those would have gotten involved in the final films.
Yeah, no, it definitely would have made that movie more unique in its designs if any of those had survived.
Yeah.
So we know you've recently worked on a new book for Jurassic Park, The Ultimate Visual History. What was that process like?
Yeah, I just got a contact from a guy over in England, and he was looking for artwork for this book, and he just requested some pieces, and so it's just me and him back and forthing what he was looking for, and I sent him some images, and I haven't seen the book. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm looking forward to it.
When you were working on concepts for Jurassic Park between 89 and 94, did you ever think that 30 years later you would be getting requests for artwork to go in a book about it?
No. You know what? If I shoot myself, because now I look at the catalog from the prop store. You guys are familiar with that? That sells all the props.
Yeah.
Yes.
I look at that and I see some of the Jurassic stuff in there, and I go, Jesus, if I had half a brain, I would have just picked up armloads of things that were just being thrown in the dumpsters and laying on the floor and thrown in the trash. I mean, there was so much stuff that just got tossed, and if I only had an ounce of foresight and vision of where I thought this film was going to land in film history, I would have just gobbled up all kinds of stuff.
If it makes you feel any better, Universal didn't even have the same foresight. They lost in 2001, they lost most of the dinosaurs. And when I say lost, I mean they misplaced them. I know where they are. I know exactly where they are, but they lost track of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they lost track of all of Stan Winston's dinosaurs, the maquettes, the life size, the original castings, the metal molds, the internal documents. They lost track of them. They lent them out to a company.
Wow.
And then their interdepartmental people changed, and they never made document of it. That's why the dinosaurs look different in Jurassic World. It's because Universal literally lost the dinosaurs in 2001. because Jurassic Park 3 wasn't as big of a hit as they had hoped, so it wasn't on their priority list.
Oh my gosh.
Looks like they used the wrong DNA to reconstruct them, but oh well.
That's just one of those things that always cracks me up, knowing that. Just sitting in trailers in the middle of the woods.
Well, at least a big chunk of stuff. Rick Carter had the foresight, I guess, to donate it to USC for their library.
Oh, that's great. That's good to hear. Good to know. I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I guess people can check it out as long as they make an appointment in advance to peruse over, different materials like scripts and even like concept art, which I did. So, yeah.
Sadly, it seems like the visual history book did not know about that that huge archive of materials. But so that's one of those things that maybe eventually might be uncovered for the general public's consumption.
Yeah.
Some really cool stuff there. I do have a question, so if you were approached again, to work on a Jurassic film now, and let's say they come to you and they say, look, we're just looking for inspiration right now. We want some images that speak to us. The setting is the dinosaurs are in our world. There are multiple companies. It's kind of becoming, it's like you can't put that back in the box. It is part of our world now, not just on an island anymore. Is that something that you'd be interested in? Are there concepts and ideas that you think that you would like to see? Do you know like what you would gravitate towards? Would you gravitate towards vehicles, towards structures, towards settings? I'm just sort of curious on like where you would want to go.
Yeah,
you have the blue sky option.
Yeah, doing all that stuff. Helping to visualize all of it, the settings, either the cities or the farmlands or wherever it's going to be, different continents. Yeah, I think it'd be great. It'd be a fun project.
Yeah, I'm hopeful opportunities exist. I mean, I know that Jurassic World Dominion isn't the end. It's supposed to be the start of a new era. More, make the franchise go more global. I know they want to do films. They want to do live action TV. Hell, they've got animated on Netflix now, and I think they want to continue that. So there's definitely a lot of cool opportunity. I would just love to see a lot of that visual identity that you brought into Jurassic Park and the Lost World kind of come back.
Yeah,
come back with a vengeance.
That'd be lots of fun for sure.
Yeah, our message basically to Universal right now is if they don't hire you back for any of the future projects, they just don't need to make them. Just don't even bother. Don't do it.
No, but seriously, I think that it's sort of one of those things that should happen. I mean, same with getting like Crash McCreary back on dinosaur designs.
Yeah.
That I think there's some really great artwork that's come out of the new films, but I do think that he had a unique style for his, vision of dinosaurs, and what then Sam Winston Studios did really kind of brought that out. And I feel like the dinosaurs look a little different now. They're a little scarier. They look a little less naturalistic. And
yeah,
I'd like to see Crash come back and bring his magic back.
For sure. That'd be great. That would be great.
Yeah, I think the story going to a more global place really can present an opportunity for some of those old concept types from the original films to come back, like in more grounded stories. So
yeah, just like what does U.S. Fish and Wildlife dinosaur departments look like? U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they don't, they've got those sort of log cabin-y type of park visitation buildings and whatnot. So what does that look like in Jurassic World?
Yeah, exactly. That'd be fun. Great challenges for sure.
That's just one of those things that I guess I'm kind of hopeful it happens, but I'm glad to hear that that's something that you'd be interested in should the opportunity ever come.
Well, I look forward to getting an email someday that says it's going to happen.
Doesn't it make it easier for you to like become part of these films right now due to like remote technology? Because you can, do your work from anywhere now. You don't have to be in the studio, like in the past. So, I mean, has that actually made it easier for you, or has it made it harder?
Well, it's easier. You don't get that spontaneous back and forth when you're in the studio with everybody. You do get to focus on your tasks at hand, and you can get yourself into a different mental state. But when the chemistry's right on a project, you really look forward to going into the studio or the art department and bouncing ideas and just seeing what everybody else is doing and picking it all up through osmosis, really.
there's anything you want to plug or anything like that.
I don't know what to plug.
Yeah, like no new projects or anything.
I'm working for a video game studio up in Oregon for Sony. And, I'm doing my own personal artwork, and that's pretty much it. I really appreciate it, you guys. It's been really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed that interview. Now I have something very special for you. Asisman Sandhu has an announcement.
Okay, guys, this is episode 99. Next episode, we'll be doing it probably 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, you think? It's going to be a special one, guys, because you know what? Episode 100. If we were 2 weeks' time, I'm getting the figure 2 weeks' time, or I have 2 minutes left to talk. I don't know. So I got 2 minutes left to talk. Okay, cool.
No, I'm swearing at you, bro.
Okay, so yeah, if we were a normal podcast, we would have hit 100 probably, year 2, year 3, instead of year, 7, 8? But to celebrate this long time coming achievement of episode 100, I am happy to announce that the next episode will be done live in person. We will have Ryan, myself, not Chris because he's in America.
Ryan's
Alex
in America.
From the UK. No, he's fine. Alex from the UK. We'll be recording this in Vancouver. That's right. Since me and Jack are so close to each other now, proximity-wise, it makes sense to probably kick off episode 100 properly and have all the boys minus Chris here for, a nice episode 99.5. If we're being honest, if you don't know what that means, go back to the 0.5s. They're very special.
Yeah, we did do 0.5 episodes.
We
did.
One
That's when I was hosting.
0.5 episode. We did one.
Why did we do that?
Why did we do that? Because I was hosting it, so I just said so.
But episode 100 is next, and other than being a
wait, does that mean this is episode 100?
No, this is 99.
This is 90. Oh my God, Christopher!
What did you?
If we had a 0.5, doesn't this mean this is technically the 100th episode?
Don't question it, man.
No. 0.5.
There's 2.5. There are 2.5s.
Yes.
God, we're on episode 101.
Hey, stop this.
We did it.
It's like Jurassic World Evolution 1.5. We had episode 0.5 or whatever it was.
It's like, how Windows just jumped to Windows 10?
Hey, stop questioning things, okay? We're going to episode 100.
Question authority, Chris. Come on. Just come on. But yeah, very exciting. Episode 100. So if you're looking forward to that, I don't know. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
It will be live in studio, by the way. I forgot to mention that. We have a studio booked. It'll be very cool. We have a professional videographer, too, Jack. He'll be filming it.
He will be filming it and hosting it.
Yes. Yeah. No, actually, I'm hosting it. It's my turn. What the hell, man?
Oh, we'll co-host.
Every 100 episodes, we switch hosts.
No, every live episode we've done has been me hosting it, so I'll be hosting it again.
Yeah. I'm worried about doing it live,
We need to do another podcast in a hot tub. I guess we never did a podcast in a hot tub, but
we just did an Instagram story in a hot tub, I believe.
No,
that's right.
We did. Yeah, it was like a live Jurassic reaction thing, but all in a hot tub.
So if you guys know what it's like when we get together live, expect something special for episode 100. And that's a promise. 100. That's a Sandhu promise. Take it to the bank.
I can't believe we're there though. Episode 100 is coming soon. But guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Hopefully it has been a good one. We talked Camp Cretaceous. We've talked Evolution 2. By the next time we talk... Wait, hang on.
Oh my God. Next time... No, it won't be. It will be on the
I was going to say, I'm just checking now. Next time... No.
Very close to the release of Camp Cretaceous.
Oh, it's going to be so close to the release of Camp Cretaceous. We might know more. There might be more to talk about. But until then... I guess just shut the hell up. So cool.
Text us. You have our numbers.
Apparently you got my number.
Well, loads of people have Chris's number. That goes around on the... People like to spread Chris's number around and ask him questions and pretend that they're troll. You know what? It's so funny,
Chris
actually.
Likes violence, man.
When you were getting, air quotes, trolled, Chris, when you were getting all those texts, it's like people think they're, like, trolling you, or people think that they're, I don't know, somehow playing a big prank on you. But we're just sat there laughing at the audacity and at these messages. Like, what the fuck? These people
Like,
are
what is
so
going
weird.
on? Like, what?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Do you not remember?
so
Chris
lost.
put the screenshots up on Twitter. Like, someone was texting him as if they knew him but didn't know. Oh, Brad gave me your number. Like, and he didn't.
No,
And, like,
what is this? Call the
just-
police.
But it's just strange. Like, I don't understand. Do they think they're winning? Do they think there's some sort of like, they're really getting to Chris? It's like, no, me and Chris are just laughing at that.
Chris is
Like,
just a dude in Pittsburgh. who
I
talks about
forget
dinosaurs
what
on the
I
internet.
forget what it was that they said, but I
Losers,
honestly
Christopher guy sounds.
there was a
like.
time that I thought it was Jack because it was like it almost seemed like it was like you.
It would be a
playing
thing he would do, eh?
No, because there was something very specific about the way that it was doing it. I'm like, Jack, is this you playing a bit? And you're like, that does sound like something I would say, but no.
yeah, I was
you were like,
kind of jealous actually. Somebody's taken my.
You do the punch, man. I love it.
yeah, it was like, I don't know.
They were
But anyhow.
fucking with you, but it's me. I fuck with Chris. Come on.
The funniest thing
I'm gonna
is,
be-
like, after I was like, yeah, it wasn't Brad, I tweeted that, and then I got an apology text from that person from a different cell phone number, by the way, a different number.
That's
And
weird.
they're
I
like,
don't like
oh, I'm
this.
sorry, I was joking, I wasn't trying to be mean, but they still wouldn't say who it was. I'm like, okay,
Just get away, you freaking
okay,
weirdos, man.
you got my number from God knows where. Okay, cool, I guess.
Okay, if that was you and you're listening to this podcast, if you're the guy who texted Chris, text him again. Apologize.
No,
Yeah.
no, you already did that. Just don't.
Do it again one more time because he's still vocal.
Text
about
to cease. Text to cease. If
it.
you,
You
gotta
have my
cease his
number already. Just text
If
him, man.
that person, if we find out that person is Canadian based, me and Assis will fuck around. We'll go around.
I can't. I'm
They'll
not
find
a
out.
part of this. I'm not a part of this. I am not a part of this.
Oh, we're a
I'm
part
out.
of this now, Assis.
Nope,
oh, we're
I'm not a
talking
part
about
of
this now.
He's saying no for liabilities, but he's nodding.
I'm
yes.
not a part of this.
Oh,
He's
he's
nodding,
so
yes, look at
in.
that.
Look at him. He's got his
No.
his. Oh,
I'm shaking my head. No.
okay.
I appreciate
All
you
right.
watching out for your own liability. He won't have any part of that.
I am not a part of this.
And on that note, see you next time.
Bye.
Right.
That was a fun one, dude. That was a lot of fun. Oh, dang, dog.
Holy
Oh,
shit.
dang.
Oh,
He's smoking that
He's-
dank.
it's been a long time.
Hell yeah, dog.
It's been a long time. Doctor's orders, huh?
Yeah, let's start it up.
Let's hit it up. Okay.